So basically, Emma Jones,
Hi.
hi, here for, thank you first of all for coming and agreeing to this. It's like, I'm so pleased that you did. I think you know already how passionate we are as a firm to promote wellness in the workplace, and about how developing a really good culture is massively important to us. So I was desperate to sort of get you to do this, and I'm
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. So, okay, can you tell me a little bit? We'll go to the start.
Yeah.
And about your childhood and where you grew up, etc.
Okay, so I kind of grew up all over the UK, to be fair. I was born in England, not that I like to admit it, but I was only there for a few weeks of my life. Then I lived in Scotland till I was 5. And then I lived in Wales from 5 onwards. So various places in Wales, but most of my, I would say, kind of young life was lived, I lived in North Wales on Anglesey. Parents, younger sister, very typical kind of Welsh village childhood, really. Went to the local primary school and really enjoyed school, was quite... I was a bit of a geek, really, kind of growing up. I enjoyed learning and always kind of was quite career focused from quite a young age. I then went on to Bangor University, studied. We were the first ever cohort, actually, of law students to go through Bangor University. Then I went on to do my legal practice course in Chester. And I think when I graduated from there, it was around kind of the financial crisis. So it's like 2007, 2008. So it's actually quite difficult to get into the legal sector at that time to continue my career. So in order for me kind of not to be working, I then decided just to get any job, and it happened to be within the charity sector. And I found my career developing throughout the charity sector, literally up until today. I think having that legal background has always helped when it comes to any kind of form of employment. But yeah, I've worked for various charities over my time, kind of some local ones, some more national ones. And yeah, it's always been kind of a dream of mine to be as successful as I can in my chosen career. And I would like to say that still is a dream of mine. I just think my perspectives has changed on kind of what success looks like.
So you'd say ambitious person.
Very.
I know you to be academic. You are bright. So you had sort of aspirations to sort of really push forward with your career, etc. You were quite hungry for a decent career.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think taken after my parents, they were very career focused. I just always have been. I've always wanted to achieve. I've always wanted to be at the top of my game, whatever that game may be. I think naturally I'm quite a competitive person. So even when it comes to board games or anything like that, I want to be the best, quizzes especially. So yeah, it's kind of using kind of the intelligence from kind of education plus random facts that you find out throughout life and kind of really kind of forming that together into a career. Yeah, I was and still am very career focused. But yeah, it's definitely taken a different path for me.
And can you explain a little bit as to why that changed? What happened with that change? You were working in the charity sector, enjoying it?
Yeah, the charity sector is quite a hard sector to be in. It doesn't have this. It does have the same employment rights, but it's quite a tough, very kind of numbers.
It's very target driven, isn't it?
Yeah, very, very target driven kind of sector to be in. I did enjoy it up until towards the end of kind of that stage of my career.
So what changed then?
A lot of things changed, to be fair. It was mainly around kind of my mental health. I would say probably from my early 20s, I was, unbeknownst to most people in my life, I was a really, really anxious person. I really struggled to not overthink every situation that I was in. So whether that was meeting new people or what people thought of me or various things, just kind of a slight paranoia really of not wanting to stand out from the crowd. I just wanted to blend in and have a great set of friends around me, and I would have been happy. But that anxiety kind of really played up through my 20s. Did
you have it as a child, that anxiety?
No.
Do you know what triggered it or anything?
In hindsight, I do, but at the time, no. So in hindsight, looking back, and that's through kind of therapy nowadays that I take, is I suffered from a really traumatic death when I was, I think, 11 or 12. My half-brother passed away quite suddenly. And of leukemia, and it was so unexpected, so the family was quite devastated. And then only 2 years later, unfortunately, my grandmother was babysitting myself and my sister over a Christmas period, and I found her and she had collapsed and she'd died. So those kind of
very traumatic,
those kind of things at such a young, kind of vulnerable age, I think really did affect me, but didn't take effect until I was in my 20s.
It was sort of a delayed process.
Yeah, delayed trauma, which I now know is quite common. But at the time, I didn't realise kind of where my worries about people passing away and things like that, where it really actually stemmed from.
Yeah, so you were working in the charity sector, you were quite happy, but you had this underlying anxiety that you felt was getting worse. You said that nobody knew about it.
No.
I mean, we've been friends a long, long time. I think we had one conversation about it, but I didn't realise quite how bad it was.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about that, as how it impacted your work and when you were working.
Yeah, I think even stemming kind of from that, to alleviate some of my anxiety, I tried to almost push against it and become the most sociable person known to man, as you're very aware. We had a great social life in our 20s. And yeah, I used to be out a lot. I used to make friends really easily. I used to love being...
You were the life, like always the life and soul.
Yeah.
We were always out, always.
Yeah. And I think that fed into the kind of almost now the kind of vicious cycle that I found myself in. So I was anxious, but my anxiety would go away when I would drink. So that was great. Then the following day, my anxiety would be back. So we would have a drink. Not that it ever became a problem in my 20s, but that was the beginning of the cycle. And then, I think throughout my career was developing. It's only now, again, in hindsight, you look back at how many opportunities there are to drink within a working environment. So that would...
Well, like 5 o'clock drinks is like a regular... Actually, we've totally come away from that. It's not that it doesn't happen, but we don't promote it. It's not like a regular... finish work on Friday and go for a few bevies. It's not what we try and promote. We try and do other things, because also there's people that are teetotal within our company that just don't really like drinking. And also we don't want to make it something. I think it's quite unhealthy to promote it. I like a drink, but it's not something we've pushed.
I think it's almost part of British culture as well, the pub environment, whether that's going to watch sport, whether that is your after work drinks, whether it's celebrating a birthday, an anniversary, a wedding, commiserating, attending a funeral.
You can always find an excuse.
There is always a reason to have a drink. And then the higher I was getting up in my career, the more opportunities there were. So whether that was meetings, it was always be, can I get you a glass of wine?
And you said higher up in your career, so your career was progressing, which means there is just more pressure as well, isn't there?
Yeah.
So you've got this pressure coming with being more senior, getting more sort of senior roles, along with more opportunities to sort of relieve a little bit of that anxiety with alcohol. Yeah,
definitely. I think you're meeting quite high-powered people in my role, I was naturally quite nervous about meeting these people and making a good impression. So having that
crutch.
Yeah, and having that mimosa, for example, or the prosecco that's given to you in a breakfast meeting, would help.
Take the edge off.
Yeah, and everybody else
was doing it. It was socially accepted.
So I didn't want to stand out as not doing it, so I did. And then that just became a habit. It's just whenever I was networking, wherever I was in a business meeting, it was all about, before we sit down and we talk about the topic that we're there to talk about, is, can I get you a drink? And it's like, yeah, because it's socially acceptable to sit there over a glass of wine and discuss quite important things. So that just became very, very normal. And the other thing, kind of in hindsight, that I did notice about my pattern is I had various groups of friends.
So you could hide it more.
So it was very easy. So I would have work colleagues who would only see me in work time. Then I would have my friends that lived locally. Then I had other friends that maybe were part of the gym. And I never mixed the groups. So one friendship group would be going out on a Thursday, which I would attend. Now, the rest of that Thursday club then probably wouldn't go out for the rest of the weekend, maybe. I would then go out then with the other groups
on the
of
Friday
friends.
and the Saturday.
Yeah, exactly. So there was always a group of friends that I could socialise with if I wanted to. And then still, even when I was in this kind of cycle, I didn't realise that it was leading to addiction at all. It was only then when COVID hit, I lost my job, just like hundreds of thousands of other people did.
So that wasn't related at the time. It wasn't related to the alcohol at the time, losing your job.
No.
It wasn't about performance or anything like that. Okay.
No, it wasn't about performance at all. It was just the coincidence. But then I was living in London at the time. I was living in a flat on my own. The government obviously had different rules in England as they did in Wales. So I couldn't cross the border to go and visit family.
Isolated.
I was truly isolated in the capital city of the UK, where everything was spreading so quickly, and it was just quite a scary time, which then increased my anxiety. So to help with the increased anxiety, I increased my drinking, and that lasted throughout COVID. And it was only...
it's strange, that you said that, because initially you were using alcohol for the social elements to sort of help you with that, and then it switched to help you with the loneliness.
Yeah, very much so. I wasn't allowed a bubble or any of the rules that kind of applied to people. It didn't apply to me at the time. So yeah, it really did help with isolation. So we used to go on Zoom and have Zoom parties, and everybody would have a glass of wine, but there was no one there to monitor how much I was drinking or when I was drinking.
Or when the Zoom stopped, they possibly went to bed or whatever, but perhaps I continued.
Yeah. So it just became this awful cycle that I didn't realise I was in until lockdown was easing and people were kind of moving outside a little bit more. And then I realised that I could not leave the house without having had alcohol.
So what was it, you're talking period wise, how long was that between the end of COVID and then from when you could get out? So it got that bad during just that period?
I would say 2020 is when it got bad.
Really bad, yeah.
Because at the end of 2020, I actually relocated back to Wales. I then started my master's in January 2021, completed that with distinction. Whilst drinking, I was also living with family.
And they went away?
So we would socialise,
have a glass
of wine, but they had no idea that I was drinking the volume that I was drinking, either when I was on Zoom doing my master's, or whether I was in my bedroom, or whether I was going for a walk or popping to the shop.
So you were hiding it?
Yeah, completely. I was hiding it. Because it was only during that time frame, the 2020 time frame, that I realised that I had an alcohol issue.
What you realised in 2020?
In 2020, that I realised there was a bigger issue that I couldn't resolve on my own. But admitting that is a very, very different story. So I went through 2021, flying colours with my masters, really enjoyed it.
Got a bloody distinction.
Got a distinction. And in 2022, I then was looking to get back out basically into employment because I'd done my masters full time. So I thought, let's start looking for work. And as I was looking for stuff, obviously the market for jobs was still quite poor at that time. It was the summer of 2022. I then started noticing I was kind of bleeding a lot. So from cuts, for example, I was bruising heavily. I was having nosebleeds, random nosebleeds. I was trying to think of all the other symptoms I was experiencing. My gums were bleeding, but all very kind of irrelevant to each other. There was little things happening until one time I began having a nosebleed and it did not stop. So I actually got rushed. My mum was around. I got rushed into hospital.
Did you connect it? Did you at the time you didn't have any idea it was connected?
No, not so. I knew myself I had a drinking problem.
Oh, you knew you had a drinking problem, but you didn't.
But
know
I didn't connect the symptoms to the drinking problem. And I was in hospital. Now I can't fully remember, just due to everything that has happened since. I don't remember a lot of this. I was in hospital for maybe a week or so, just with nosebleeds. And what it was my blood wasn't clotting. I had no platelets. So I had quite a few blood transfusions. Eventually I got discharged. And that's when the doctors first mentioned to me that my liver function test wasn't great and that they advised me to cut down in drinking. Now, that was the advice I was given, is just to cut down. It wasn't,
you need to stop.
You need to stop. This is actually extremely important.
Did they offer, at any of that stage, did they offer you any support? Or, did they ask you, any of the doctors or professionals say to you, do you think you're struggling with alcohol? Or was it ever mentioned? Or even, any family members or anything at that stage? Or was it still quite well hidden?
It was mentioned about my drinking. I did say I drink
too much.
I
need to cut down.
But there was never volumes. How much do you drink? When do you drink in the day? Now, it had been mentioned by family members that, you do drink quite a bit. Or like it was, it was every evening, it'd be 5 o'clock and we'd have a drink ready for dinner. And it was like, oh, you drink every evening. That kind of comment. But what they didn't know was I was drinking in the day as well. You become quite a master manipulator of everybody else around you when you realise you're in addiction. As for the hospital, I did get referred to the alcohol team in the community. Now, whether this is a reflection of where I was living at the time or maybe just the NHS in general, I'm still waiting to this day to hear back from that community support team. So I'm assuming my application may have got lost in the post.
Wow.
So that was the summer of 2022. It then became quite apparent to everybody around me that there was a lot more going on than just me drinking in the evening, as I dramatically lost weight. The weight was falling off me. So to try and hide that, I then started going to the gym so that it looked like to everybody else I'm losing weight because I'm going to the gym.
You're trying to lose weight, yeah.
When actually I wasn't trying. It was just dropping off. Relations with my family became not very nice. All down to my own behaviour. They were concerned I was pushing them away. So I decided to leave. I packed a bag and I left on the first train that I could. On reflection now, having spoken to my parents, they did say that day that as I was walking to the train station, that was probably the last time they were going to see me alive. I now realise how close that was to the actual truth. So I actually got a train to Birmingham. I which is, again, quite ironic, as Birmingham ended up being the
where you
hospital
went
that saved
to,
my
yeah.
life. But I went to Birmingham, I partied for 2 days, then I phoned a friend and I said, can I come and stay with you for a bit?
To do more partying? Was that the idea, to go again? Was that the sort of pattern? You'd go somewhere for a period of time, party with them, and then change it, switch it up?
That wasn't my plan. I mean, she was a friend that I did socialise with, but when I turned up at her train station and we had a drink that night, the following day she confronted me and said, do you have a drink problem? And I said yes.
Oh, you
and
didn't.
That's the first time that
You've
I'd ever admitted it to anybody else. Luckily for me, she was a nurse. So she got things into the ball rolling, shall we say, so contacted her local alcohol support team. And they advised that because I was drinking maximum 3 bottles of wine a day, that I can't just quit and go cold turkey. The advice is it's too dangerous. So to reduce that amount that I was drinking by 10% per day. During that time frame, and
and that was out in the community, that wasn't in hospital, that was just to reduce
That was just at my friend's house. So fair play, it was on her to take me kind of through that. And then during that kind of time frame, I can't quite remember how many days it was. Eventually, they persuaded me to pop to hospital for a quick blood test, just because, again, the bruising, the bleeding, etc. And I walked into hospital.
Were you feeling unwell at that point? Did you? I know you had the bruising and stuff, but looking back, do you remember feeling weak or?
I do, but I didn't admit it. Okay. So the night before I went to hospital, I actually lost the ability to walk on my legs. My legs just went numb. And I had to crawl upstairs. My friend was already in bed because she was working the next day. I had to crawl up the stairs because I was so scared that she would find me downstairs. Then I walked into hospital that day, and timeframes are a bit hazy, but I got told that if I hadn't have gone in that night, I would not have seen the weekend. And that was, I think it was a Wednesday. So around 36 hours time, I would not have been alive. The hospital immediately started trying to save me. I was put on a medical detox for 2 weeks. I don't remember any of it. And after that, I can remember the conversation starting with my medical team that said the only way I would survive is a liver transplant. There was no hope of recovery at all from that point. I thought the doctor was being quite dramatic. As I was in bed, I was fine. I clearly wasn't fine. But I had a lot of ammonia in my system. So I was suffering from hepatic encephalopathy, I think it's pronounced, which basically your brain isn't functioning right. So you don't really quite understand the kind of world that you're in. You're very kind of insular in your own mind.
Is it confused or just or more like in a bubble, in your own bubble?
A mixture of everything. Highly, highly confused. I didn't understand what the drama was, why I was in hospital and why they were telling me I needed a liver transplant. Surely they could just give me some drugs and I promise I'll stop drinking. And then as part of the NHS kind of tick box, it was to, you have to prove sobriety for 6 months before you're eligible for a liver transplant. I didn't have 6 months in me. So they did their best. They really did. They kept me safe. They were investigating all sorts, whether it was my pancreas, my spleen, my liver, my kidneys were failing. Everything was failing at this point. So they did the utmost to save me. I then went back to Wales for Christmas with the mindset that it was probably my last Christmas. And I had a week at home, and then I became really unwell with a chesty cough. And obviously my body was failing. So I got taken into hospital. and was in for about 6-7 weeks. So I was in over the new year, over January, and I was discharged in the February. In that time, I experienced ascites, which is fluid build-up in your body. So
my swollen.
Yeah, my legs were swollen, my stomach was swollen. I looked kind of 20 months pregnant. I was, throughout this whole process, I was yellow. I was jaundiced. My eyes were jaundiced. My skin was jaundiced. And yeah, I just continued fighting just to keep myself alive, a daily process, really. I became more and more sick. So my mum then became, well, the whole of my family became my carers. My mum became my registered carer. I lost the ability to bathe myself, feed myself, walk. I was in a wheelchair, relied heavily on everybody to keep me functioning. And then I got a call at, the team in that hospital decided to refer me to the transplant team at 4 months sober, as I think they realised I was deteriorating quite fast.
Meaning you didn't have the 6 months, the standard sort of period of 6 months?
They didn't have the I wouldn't have waited 6 months for the referral to then be placed into the system. So they placed it early.
Okay.
At 6 months, it was actually 6 months to the day of my sobriety that I went in for my first consultation in the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Birmingham. Mm-hmm. They realised pretty quickly that it was quite an urgent case. I got sent home. I was back the following week for the start of the transplant assessment. I think 2 weeks after that, I was brought back in for the education day, which is basically they educate you on what the transplant is, how life looks for you afterwards, because you're on drugs for medicine for the rest of your life.
Do you mind me asking how many pills you've taken? I know you've discussed this with me before. It's a lot, isn't it?
In the beginning, yeah, it was like 20, 30 pills throughout the day. Now I'm over 2 years post-transplant. I still take about 9 every day. But that can change as and when my health kind of declines and improves. Then I went through the education day, which they happened to take your blood at that day. Well, they took my blood, should I say. They didn't take anybody else's. So I thought that was quite strange. Maybe I was late in and everybody else had their bloods taken. But actually, a couple of hours later, halfway through day 1 of the assessment, I got rushed out of the assessment onto a ward. My sodium levels were basically non-existent. And they started treating me. They stated along the lines of that my sodium levels are that low, I really shouldn't be conscious. But I was. And that's when I got the diagnosis of Addison's disease, as well as requiring a liver transplant. I then became an inpatient for 2.5 weeks. And I got told by the doctor that I was not leaving that hospital until I received a liver transplant, however long that may be. That came as quite a bit of a shock to me, that possibly the rest of my life was going to be in hospital and then I was never going to go home. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
So,
I mean, emotionally, I can't even imagine the psychological toll that takes on you and your amazing family, who I know they are amazing. It must have just been so scary.
Yeah, but it also gives you this push, I think, that you need to. The team are telling you one thing, but you know yourself. So they kept saying to me at every opportunity, I don't think you understand how sick you are, Emma. And I'd be like, I do, but you don't know me.
Yeah, you're a very stubborn, very determined person.
Yeah, you don't know me. So I swiftly got my head around the fact that I was staying in hospital. Then a couple of days later, a doctor came round and said, we're having to send you home because they require a bed. Looking back, Oh, and
whilst you were there, sorry, were there a lot of people in that were in for the same reasons as you, or was it lots of different reasons? Were you able to sort of have that support from the people in there?
Yeah, the various hospitals I was in, I've met some amazing people. I've heard so many different stories, and those people, some of them are still my friends to this day. For example, one person, Christine, who I met at the first hospital I was in, she actually received her liver transplant 4 weeks ago.
Oh.
So it's like a full circle moment. I just happened to do the process a bit quicker. So yeah, no, so there's great support networks there, but there was a lot of people waiting for liver transplants, but they were for various reasons. During this whole time, I wasn't actually active on the transplant waiting list because I was too sick. So they knew I wouldn't be able to survive the operation. So all my motivation was to get myself well enough to be green lit.
Ready for you.
Ready for it. When they sent me home, I did not leave the hospital. Well, my mum didn't allow me to leave the hospital until we got confirmation that I was live on the list. So I was asleep in a waiting room whilst my mum was fighting for me to be put live on the list. They agreed. I went home, and 7 days later,
you got the call.
I received the call to say, come back. We think we have a liver for you. So I did the drive. Well, my mum did the drive all the way back to to Birmingham, and they tested the liver. Obviously, this whole journey, I'm thinking about the donor family. They've lost their loved one, and they've just had to make a decision as to whether to donate the organs of that person.
We will put a link at the bottom of this for organ donations.
Great.
And if there are any charities, whatever, will be at the bottom.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, just that decision in itself is mind-blowing. I can't imagine being in that scenario. But when I got the call, that call changed my life. So I got into hospital.
It's been such a weird sense of emotion, relief, but also sad because, like you said, someone else has lost their life. To be able to keep you alive.
Yeah.
Such, I can't even imagine the emotional toll, and for your parents and everything. Yeah, just very strange.
And on that day that I got the call, which is the 7th of July, 2023, my dad had to stay home to look after my sister's dogs because my sister was flying to Turkey with her family. So it was just me and my mum left to do the journey. But we are warned in the education day not to expect for the transplant to go ahead first time. It's not rare, but there's more chance of there being complications with the donor liver. Maybe I had an infection. Maybe I was too sick that day to go under anaesthetic. There's lots of things that can go wrong, which means the liver doesn't get used. That day went right. And at, I believe, like 7 p.m.-ish, maybe that evening, I went down, and I was the calmest person I've ever been in my entire life. I was not scared. I said to everybody, I'll be fine.
You knew?
I just knew I'll be fine. And I said to the anaesthetist, a lovely gentleman, I said, your only job is to put me to sleep and make sure I wake up. I'll do the rest. Leave the hard work to me. Just wake me up, which he did. And I've been, on the road to recovery ever since. As I said earlier, it's just been it's just over 2 years since my transplant. I'm now back to work full time again in the charity sector. But I also do a lot of public speaking around the dangers of alcohol in general, especially on women. We can't break down alcohol as well as men. I was a big advocate, I think, growing up with the Spice Girls, of girl power, and we can achieve everything that we want to achieve, and we can be just as good, if not better, than men in the employment
I remember
workplace.
even when we were younger, it was sort of like almost like competition to keep up with the guys, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was sort of yeah.
Yeah, but we can't. I can vouch. We can't break it down as good as men can. Your mental health, like people, I know it's quite a buzzword these days about people's mental health, but we need to take it more seriously. In any context, but especially think in a professional context, like in a workplace. Looking back, the amount of times I feel I could have been legitimately pulled to one side and asked in an empathetic way, how are you? Or we've noticed that things you're not as fun as you used to be, or your work's declining, or you have a lot of absences, or various questions that could be really kind of tailored individually to that person. I was never asked one time, and I was drinking in the workplace.
Why do you think that was? Why do you think people are scared to ask? Why do you think, what are the barriers to someone sort of having that awkward conversation?
It's because it's awkward.
Because it's awkward.
How do you approach someone and...
Is it risk offending them or accusing
them?
You're
accusing them of doing something they shouldn't be doing, which is drinking in a workplace. You are functioning under the influence of alcohol, which I'm sure in most policies there is something there to be, that you can't take alcohol, drugs, anything like that, within your working environment. And I was doing that. So to accuse me of doing that, I would have got very defensive. In hindsight, I think it would have made me look at my life probably quicker than I ended up having to.
So at the risk of offending someone, you think it's always best to sort of to mention it?
Yeah, because all you're going to do is have to apologise for getting it wrong. Now, an apology shouldn't be that hard, but if you're coming from a gentle, caring, nurturing, friendly angle, then all you're doing is asking a question.
Is someone okay?
Yeah, and that could be the catalyst to save someone's life.
But is that enough to say, is somebody okay? Or is it to be more direct and say, sort of mention alcohol or drugs or whatever it may be? Is it better to be gentle but direct, do you think? Or is it more general approach? I know I'm putting you on the spot a bit.
No, I think with me, obviously I can only speak from my experience. It's so dependent on the person. You have to know that person's character. And I think in a workplace, you spend most of your time in work. They should know you.
Oh, your work colleagues, you spend more time with your work colleagues than you do with your family, really.
So they should know how you operate, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, it would have been the gentle approach. And if I was to then get defensive or be in denial, it would then be to mention, the reason why I bring this up is because I actually do smell alcohol on you. So bring up the reason why you are questioning them in the first place. Don't just accuse someone of drinking without actually having the evidence.
Yes.
To back that up. So I would say you do need to give real life examples of maybe why you're concerned.
And I mean, we talked a little bit about stress in work, etc., and your way to deal with certain sort of pressures or conversations that may be tricky, or you felt you were under pressure to a certain extent, was to drink. I mean, do you think there should be more awareness of that in the workplace, more sort of strategies? Because it's awkward, isn't it? Because most people do feel anxious going into big meetings. And so it's totally natural. But whether there should be have you got any ideas as to how you could approach that? Well, obviously now with hindsight, in a different way. What would you do now differently?
Is to have an environment that it's okay to be nervous,
to talk about it.
To actually be like, so whether it's in a board meeting and say, I've got this presentation here, guys, but if I trip over my words, don't mind me. I'm just really nervous.
Yeah.
And actually, everybody to
Was
be
a
like,
bit more honest
yeah,
about
it's
it.
fine.
Yeah.
Then it relieves that kind of that tension and that knot in your stomach. As in, if I mess up, I'm not going to be punished, or I'm not going to be embarrassed, or people aren't going to look at me and think, oh, she can't do her job.
You're not going to feel stupid.
Yeah. So it's more about having that just inclusive environment.
Openness, a culture, because you know that we're absolutely obsessed with culture and trying to have ways to be more open, and so that people can hopefully feel that if there is something bothering them, you know, with Wellness Matters Wednesday, we have an initiative where every Wednesday, it can be something as small as just an email going out or a message just to say, don't forget, you can, if there's anything, doesn't matter how big or small, just get in touch.
Yeah.
Let us know, and then we can deal with it before it gets bigger.
Yeah.
Before the issue becomes out of control. So we're really trying to promote that, and we're always looking at ways and strategies of maybe helping, because I mean, especially with the type of work we deal with, litigation is stressful.
Yeah.
And so ways to be able to sort of alleviate a little bit of that stress.
Yeah, I think from an employee perspective, it's great to know those initiatives are there, but you also need reassurance that if you do use one of the initiatives, or you do come to you for a confidential chat, that nothing negative is going to be done. So that's where the word culture comes in, but that needs to happen over time. So people need to see someone brave enough to take that first step and actually maybe walk up to you and say, do you have that number for that confidential helpline that work provides?
A counselling service or whatever. Yeah.
So that is a really huge
without the
step.
risk of feeling that they're going to miss out on promotion.
Yeah.
Or
just that there's a judgment there.
Or that there's a judgment.
That person will, you'll obviously provide that number to them. But then you know that they need that number for something. So are you going to keep an extra eye on their work, or is that going to be noted down in their employee file that on such a day they asked for this number? And it's for someone that's really struggling, they're going to think the worst. So reaching out for help is the hardest thing to do. It's much easier to keep it to yourself and hope it disappears than to worry about asking for help, because then you're almost burdening that person with some information as well, which you don't want to do. You don't want to burden anybody with your problems. So it's that longevity as a proven culture within that work environment, rather than just the one-offs.
And having an environment, I'm guessing, and you only do that over time, as you said, and that so that people know that you can be trusted, because it's hard to trust people sometimes that are not your family members. It's hard to trust family sometimes.
Yeah.
And so if it's in work, when you feel there's things on the line, especially financially or whatever, you've got bills to pay, it can add a layer of a barrier maybe to...
Yeah, I've spoken to employers before, and actually I think you need to lead by example. So as hard as it is, why doesn't the CEO or the manager reveal something quite vulnerable about themselves?
And this is what we're really trying to do, because I think culture starts at the top.
It does, yeah.
And with leadership.
Yeah.
And if you can be vulnerable and say, I'm nervous about this case, or I'm nervous about this meeting, and then it's showing that vulnerability will then hopefully lead to other people feeling that they can be honest and a bit more open too.
And bring other people in. Bring other, like we're doing today. Sit down and allow someone else to talk about their experiences, because that member of staff may actually feel comfortable in getting in touch with me rather than coming to you and say, well, actually, I saw the interview and I resonate with that. Is there anything I can do? And then you're opening lines of communication that way. But I think, culture does start from the top, and it is about the leaders being human.
Yeah.
And showing that, and actually being quite confident in showing that. I think that's the reason why I'm so passionate about airing all the bad stuff, because if I can do it, then someone else
can be brave.
Yeah.
And lastly, we have a genuine ambition to be the best place to work in the Northwest. What would you say makes a great place to work, or how do you think we could achieve that ambition?
I do think working policies are really important. Think outside the box with policies and how they're implemented. So, for example, I know of a workplace, which is my current workplace actually. They have a policy on alcohol abuse within a working environment. And it states in that policy that if you ask for help, you will get confidential help, you will get signposted, and you will get time off without risk of losing your job to go and
make yourself better,
go and get yourself better. Now that, I think, is a huge step forward, to know that your job is safe to come back to, because maybe you only need 6 weeks off. Maybe it is going to rehab, maybe it is going to community service, but you've got that job to come back to. That takes all the pressure off you to be allowed to be vulnerable and go and get yourself better. So I think policies, think outside the box. Don't just have the policies. You have to live and breathe the policies. So whenever you do a work event, align it to one of your policies, whether it's mental health, whether it's family support, whether it is, I know, for example, you do different things. It isn't just that works drink on a Friday. You go out, you do different things. You offer a selection of things to your employees, which I think is fantastic. And yeah, I think it is that being vulnerable, the leaders showing their vulnerability as well, will allow other employees to feel, one, connected to you in a personal way. They'll actually view you as a human and not their boss. And yeah, they will just feel more empathy, connection.
Also, it's obvious to me that if you treat people well and nicely, it's not rocket science. They will be more productive.
Yeah.
So it works for both ways. I don't understand why, you don't have to have one without the other.
No, and it goes to show, I think, that I know now in myself that I would rather stay in a job that maybe isn't paying as much as the next, but they have the right culture in place.
Yeah.
And I will stay there longer, and I will work harder, and I will give my all to that place because I feel supported.
Yeah.
Rather than...
Well, some people stick at jobs, for years in jobs that are really, really unhappy.
Yeah. Because of the money.
Because of the money, or because, they're possibly scared, or lots of different reasons. But I think it's important to feel valued.
Yeah.
And to be happy.
Yeah. It's a huge part of it. Connection, human connection. It's the best thing. It saved my life. I had people come into my life that were complete strangers, but they had human connection. They had empathy. They had care, and they shared. Caroline was my alcohol worker. She came to my hospital bedside, and one of the first things she said to me was, "I'm an alcoholic too, but I'm now working in this service because I received the right help. I'm now here to help you. I'll show you the path. You just have to take it yourself." And she walked me out of that hospital.
That's amazing.
So it's about having the right people around you, really, for the support.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for agreeing to do it, and I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
And where you've come and what you're doing, and I'm really, really proud of you.
Thank you very much.